In this video, I'm going to quickly walk you through how to use template voting slides when making a presentation. So what we've got here is a selection of different slides. So four options in a bar chart, with a highlight for the correct answer, four options in a column chart. We've got yes, no, and a yes, no, don't know, and an agreement scale slide. And we've also got a 1 to 10 slide. Now, everything about these can be changed. If you're not happy with the colours and so forth, that can be dealt with. But let's assume that you're happy with these and we're going to start using them in a presentation. So probably the point that you would be at when you start using these is you've already written your presentation. So I've done a very blank and plain one, but so here's our welcome slide. And then we've got slide 2, slide 3, and so forth. So let's say after slide 3, we'd like to add in a voting question. So what we're going to do is go across to here and grab the appropriate one. So let's start with, we're going to ask them a yes, no, don't know question. So I'm going to copy that slide. I'm going to go back to my presentation. I'm going to pop that in here. Now, there's some stuff you can do at this point. There's some stuff you can't. So the important thing first is make sure it's using this one, keep source formatting, which it is because I can see the design on there. So what we can do here is we can change any of the PowerPoint elements. So if we put here, will we win, for example. So we can type in here, we can change these if we want to. These are just rounded rectangles, so the colours of the backgrounds of those can be changed. That's just normal stuff, so that would be done in shape format. So if we go into shape fill, we can choose which colour we want there. So this is just all normal stuff. Do what you want to here, and obviously you can change the words in the text boxes. So let's put in a really horrible wording option. There you go. So we can make PowerPoint changes here. What we mustn't do at this point is try and change any of the background settings for the votes. We have to do that with only one presentation open. So let's imagine then we want to have another slide and then we want to add in another vote. So we go back and we will find the appropriate template in here. So perhaps we'll ask them a question that has a correct answer this time. So copy that slide, go back to your main presentation, paste it in and keep the source formatting like so. And we can carry on like that until we've got all of the right slide types that we're going to need. At this point, we want to close the other presentation before we make any changes to this presentation. But actually, it's going to give me a warning about that. So let's just do it. So if I want to change settings, like for example, I don't want the correct answer to be 1. So we'll imagine I've changed the question wording and the answers. You're never going to have anything that just says answer 3. That's where your actual answer option wording would be. So we want option 3 to be the correct answer, not option 1. We have to do back-end settings to make that work because this is also just a rectangle. We've sent it to the back, we've put it on a fly-in animation so it will come up after your graph, but it's not doing anything for the score in the back end. So to change things in the back end, we go to add-ins, click a pad, slide editor, and we get this warning if we've forgotten to close the other presentation. So my suggestion always would be that you save and close any other presentations before you start working on the voting one, but this will do it for you. So let's just say, yes, we do want to close all the others. So that's now saved and closed everything else, at which point it's able to load the editor window. So the editor window is where we can do changes like which answer is correct, how our vote runs. So do we want to count votes coming in or do we want to run a countdown timer perhaps because it's a quiz? If I typed answer wording into these boxes, that would have appeared here. It doesn't because I haven't done that. So that's one for you to play with. But the thing that we definitely need to change on this is quiz settings. So answer 3 is correct. So let's turn off the scoring for answer 1. So the score for answer 1 is 0. So I did a click to get that down. I'm using a PP Vote Essential license, which is why I got that little warning saying that I can't manually change the scores. You need a professional license in order to do that. Anybody with a maintenance agreement that's an owner of an essential license, for the time your maintenance agreement is live, you get the professional level functionality, which will allow you to just type the score in this box here. I can't do that. I can only give a score of 1 for each thing. So that's fine for what we're doing. So I'm going to click here and it's now got a score of 1. If I click again, it has a score of -1. So you could take points away for wrong answers. When you click a third time, it goes back to 0. So let's just click that, make it green for correct, and it's got an answer of 1. And then instead of counting responses coming in, I'm going to give people 10 seconds to cast their vote. So I'm going to go to the voting tab and we've got 10 seconds here. Count up, we'll count the number of votes coming in. Count down, we'll give 10 seconds within which to vote. If you want to give a different amount of time, you can change that here, but 10 seconds tends to work quite well. Generally, I advise leaving all of these ticked. This means that the countdown won't start until you tell it to, but also when it gets to 0, if you unticked that, it would close the vote immediately and show the graph, so people voting in that very last second may not get their vote counted. So I like to leave that on manually as well. The votes indicator is for the operator to see how many votes they've received, so just leave those on in the first instance. So let's just hit save and go on that one. And then let's go to this one. And on this one, let's say we're going to count the votes coming in. We want to see how many people are in the room. So let's just check the settings on that one. So add-ins, click a pad, slide editor. And then when we go into that, we will go to voting. And this one is on a count up. So that's exactly what I want. So the other one was count down. This one is count up, save and go. So what I'm expecting to happen now is for us to see the number of votes coming up for these options and a countdown timer when they vote on this one. So after we've made those changes, we can still adjust wording. So we could change this now. I was trying to get it to highlight all the text and it wouldn't do it. So let's say, what day of the week is it? And it's actually Wednesday when I'm recording this, so that's what I'm going to set as option 3, which works rather nicely. So is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? You could be copying and pasting text into here. Obviously, you don't have to type onto the slide because this is all just PowerPoint at this point. So there's their voting options. First question doesn't have a correct answer. It's an opinion question. Second question does, and it's got days of the week. And now that I've typed these names in, when I run my report, it will also be able to read that wording. So let's imagine we're all finished and we're ready to start voting on these. So we're starting our conference. We would always be starting in full screen. So let's do that. And we click through our slides, talk people through them. And when we get to a voting slide, you will see the votes counter appear. So at the moment, no one's voted. We're on votes cast 0. So I'm going to grab a keypad and I'm going to choose option 1 and another one, option 2, another one, option 3. And then the next one, I'm going to choose option 1 again, like so. Once you've got enough votes there, if you just click to advance the slide, so however you normally move to your next animation or next slide, so I use my spacebar, and immediately we can see that that's the result. So 60% of the people are very enthusiastic and think we're going to win. We've got a nice positive audience today. Okay, so on our next click, we land on our next slide, and after that, we had another vote. So on this one, this is the one that we set to 10 seconds countdown. Now, because we left it ticked to say manually start the vote, it hasn't started counting down and it won't until I click my spacebar. Now, at this point, if somebody votes, that's fine. It will count their vote. And I'm actually casting a couple of votes now because I want you to see the blue bar just under the play icon in that time left box. That's the votes indicator. That's the third of those little tick boxes. So that is to show us how many of the audience have voted. So we've actually got about 40% of the votes in before we've even begun. That's fine. They've all been counted. Now let's click to give them a final 10 seconds to make their choices. And you'll see the other people starting to vote there. Every keypad only gets one vote, so if somebody presses 2 and then they press 3, it will only take their final answer, so that would update their first vote of 2 to being a vote of 3 and so forth. When you've got enough votes in, so we can see that most of our audience have voted here, we can just click to advance, and there's our graph. So nobody actually thinks it's Thursday, but there's plenty of people that have got that Monday feeling. Now, another thing to notice here, that adds up right now to 99%. So it's to do with rounding. If you want to avoid a situation like that, you can, in your settings, turn on decimal places. I tend not to. I usually just explain to my audience that it's rounding. Okay, so we know what people think. On my next click, I'll get my animation. So there we go. The correct answer for this one was Wednesday. So using templates is basically as simple as that.